It's Luxinda Swirl again, and I am hoping to show you today how I took this table I got at a flea market, sprayed a little green paint on it, and then resin the top. It will be beautiful. So here we go. Here we are in the workroom, or my indoor she shed. I am taping off the table. I'm leaving a good amount above the edge of the table because I want to stop the flow of resin in the beginning while I'm covering the table with the different colors. If I don't stop it at the beginning, it will just flow off the sides and I won't have much left on the table itself, and I don't want that to happen. So here we are. We're ready to start assembling our products. This is a 2.5 liter measuring cup I got at Home Depot. I have my resin. I have some colorants. I'm using Crafter's Choice micas and white pinata ink. Going with 4 different colors. We're going with white, green, sparkly gold, and a beautiful purple. There's my diamond sparkle white mica, purple mica. Beautiful. A lovely emerald green mica. And my super sparkle light gold mica. Again, we're using KS countertop resin. It is UV resistant and high heat resistant, so theoretically I could put a pot of boiling water down on the finished top and it wouldn't hurt it. Got some cups, got some stir sticks, got my gloves on, got my respirator on, which is why I'm doing this overdub. And I was told by the art resin calculator that I would need about 11 ounces to cover this tabletop, which is 31 inches by 10 inches. As it turned out, I needed closer to 16 ounces, and that's, thankfully, what I ended up measuring out. 8 ounces of the resin and 8 ounces of the hardener. And I used almost all of that 16. I would say there was maybe 1 or 2 ounces left over, but 11 would not have been enough. So keep that in mind. If you're doing a project where you're really not sure and you have a pretty big surface to cover, like an entire table, make up a little more than you think you need or that the calculator tells you, just to be on the safe side, and then have a couple molds standing by. You can pour the leftover resin into those so it won't go to waste. So I put my hardener into the cup, 1-to-1 ratios, and then it was really hard to stir. So I took it away and I put it next to my heat gun for a while I stirred for 3 whole minutes, set the timer, and here we go. We are going to separate the 16 ounces of resin into 5 cups, basically, 4 for the colors, and then I kept some in the original stir pot to use as clear. So first I'll just pour out the 4 cups. I did not try and get them equal. I just basically poured some resin into 4 cups. I think the least amount I used was for the gold. I figured that was going to be more of an accent, although there's quite a bit, as you'll see. But I think that was the least amount, and the most was probably purple, although I meant it to be the green, but anyway, it didn't really matter. It turned out okay anyway. I was not going for any sort of specific design here. I was just hoping to get through this project, have a pretty looking end result, and not screw it up somehow along the way, because I figured there were all sorts of chances for me to do that. So here I am mixing in my super sparkle gold mica. Speed things up a bit. You don't need to see me measuring. This is the white. And then I added a good squirt of the pinata white alcohol ink as well. I wanted it to be sort of fluffy, wispy clouds. So that's why I added the white alcohol ink, because that's the effect it will have if you add it directly into the resin. You may remember from another video, the one where I experimented with the coasters, that I wasn't crazy about the white. But when you mix it into the resin before you pour, you get cloudy, wispy, puffy white, which is really nice. So that's why I did that here. Mixing my gold. So beautiful. Now we'll do some purple. And now we'll do some green. And then we stir these thoroughly. Make sure it's all mixed in. You don't want any mica clumps. It mixes in really well. I did not actually have any clumps, as it turned out once I poured. So it mixed beautifully. I will link all of the sources for these micas in the description below. All right, finally, it's time to pour. Let's do it. Again, no real design in mind here. I just wanted to try and space everything out, have resin everywhere across the table, show off all the pretty colors. Hopefully, as I get more practice with resin, I will get a little better at trying designs. You can do what's called a dirty or cup pour, same as acrylic pouring. You can do that with resins as well. You would take each of these colors, pour them into one cup in layers, and then pour all of that slowly across your surface, which would create a whole different design than what I'm going for here. So that's something to try in a future project. Now at this point, I'm not scraping the last little bits of all the colors out. I'm just pouring what's in the cup and comes out easily. You will see that I use every bit of most of these colors later on, but this is just to start. I wanted to see where I stood after I poured everything from the cups out onto the table. And as it stands, I probably put 11 ounces, which is what the calculator said I need, out already, but I still have a lot of gaps. Everywhere you see dark green, there's a gap. So I filled in a lot with the clear. And then I went back and I tried to fill all the gaps, you'll see, with the rest of what was left in the cups of color. So I figured now is a good time to start hitting it with a heat gun, pop some of those bubbles, and also it loosens the resin up by heating it up, and it spreads things out a bit. And then I would use the remaining bits of color in each cup to fill in all those tiny little gaps of green, which are still places that there is no resin yet. And you want the whole thing covered. So instead of waiting for it to just spread out, I figured I will put more resin down, which is exactly what I'm doing. Now we'll add the rest of the white. Trying to get it in places I don't have this particular color already, just so there's more design and not large patches of one color. Now we'll add the rest of our gold. And now the rest of the purple. And as you can see, between the resin moving around from the heat gun and me adding all these extra glops in from the cups, and now heat gunning it again, we are closing up and getting rid of all of our little gaps. The resin now covers the entire surface. And I am using the heat gun once again to pop bubbles and to move things around. You can see little waves of resin there in front of the heat gun. So it moves some of the colors around. It smooths some of the colors out. Now the last thing I need to do is tease resin all the way to the very edge where the tape is. I ultimately want it to flow over the edges, and I will come back about 15 minutes after I finish this part and heat gun it again. I let it set for 15 minutes so it starts curing, it starts getting really thick, and then I will take the tape off, which I'll show you in a minute, so that it does start dripping over the sides, but it doesn't run off the table like it would if it were still freshly mixed or very fluid from the heat gun. I don't want to lose it all off the sides. I just want a little bit to run off the sides. So here we are 15 minutes later, taking the tape off very carefully. This is one of the moments I figured I could really screw things up, but the resin gods were with me this time. I managed to get that tape off without any major foobarrs, amazingly. And without getting resin all over myself in the process, which is even more amazing. And there we go. And now I'm going to heat gun it again, popping more bubbles and encouraging the resin at the side of the table to go over the side a little bit. And here you can see it's been dripping down onto the protector cloth underneath and over the edges. I came back every 20 minutes or so for the first hour, and I used a popsicle stick to scrape along the bottom edge so there wouldn't be any drips. Checked on everything, and then basically I left it alone overnight so it could cure. It did its own thing, moved around a little more, and set up absolutely beautifully. So this is what it looks like when it's ready to go to bed for the night. I did not try and cover it up. I couldn't figure out how to do it, so I just left it alone. Here is the finished table the next morning. Hard as a rock, but I will continue to let it cure. And I am so thrilled with how this turned out. The gold and the purple, the puffy white clouds, everything is just gorgeous. I could not be happier with how this worked. So pretty. Not bad for a little table from a flea market, huh? Can't wait to do this with more furniture. Thanks everybody for stopping by. I'll see you in the next video.